Hi, my name is Holly Thompson, and for this presentation I chose the case study I Need Some Space, which is about the two friends, Ashley and Jennifer, who go to school together and of course run into some issues along the way because, they've been friends for 4 years already and then they decide to live together, and it's a lot different living with someone than just being friends with them and hanging out. Even if you hang out every day, it's still a lot different. But in this case study, I, of course, saw quite a few correlations between the case study and then the course, mostly from chapters 4, 5, and 6. Chapter 5 covered verbal communication, which there was a lot of verbal communication in this case study. I actually felt like that was one of the strong points in the friendship between Ashley and Jennifer, because even though they ran into like 3 or 4 big conflicts in their friendship, they still were able to talk it out most of the time. Like when, the whole thing with Ashley gets all upset because she snaps at Jennifer because when they first move in together the first semester of school, she snaps at her because she wants to hang out with other people, but she always feels like Jennifer tags along anyway, which is actually true. But, you're best friends, and like how her figuring went, she was like, I figured it was okay, I didn't even notice I was doing it, sorry. And the friendship was all okay after that, and they talked about everything, like the whole deal with Steve, how they both thought it'd be a great idea to date Steve, and they talked about it, and the friendship was able to heal, like not back to 100%, not every time, but definitely the first time it went back to where it should have been because they were so good with verbal communication. Then chapter 6 covered nonverbal communication, and like I just said, I feel like most of their communicating was in the way of verbal rather than nonverbal. Like, they did some nonverbal in the way of avoiding each other, which was covered in one of the other chapters, that's never a good idea, that doesn't help anything, you're not gonna get anywhere by avoiding your problem, it's just gonna make it worse. And then chapter 4 covered emotions, which of course when we're dealing with two college-age females there will be lots of emotions. This is a little bit of an opinion, but I definitely feel like Ashley was the more emotional of the two. She was the one who, was kind of snippy and snappy and would get angry and would, just kind of let her emotions get the best of her, which is, it's important not to let that happen, especially, with your friends and your close relationships, because they're most important, so you need to be careful not to, just the times that you're upset, not to let them dominate the rest of your relationship. As for the discussion questions, I have a note card, obviously, and the first question asked about, I think, the words dialect, I can't quite say it, so we're just gonna call them tensions. And the first one talked about the different types of tensions that were present in the case study in the relationship with these two girls, and one was stability and change, which I felt was like pretty much the most prominent part of this case study, because going to college is a lot different than being in high school, especially when you're going off to college. The whole stability of the first few months of college, all they did was hang out, and then Ashley wanted to go off and hang out with other people and experience everything and blah blah blah. And then also expression and privacy. I also felt like that also tied into Ashley wanting to go off and do other things. And then also privacy with so that isn't really privacy, this is kind of just Jennifer making bad decisions. The whole thing with Steve, how she was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna date Steve even though he cheated on my friend and I caught him, actually. Whatever. But anyhow, stability and change, and then expression and privilege. Not privilege, privacy, excuse me. Question 2 talked about problem-solving strategies. like I said before, I really think that these girls had the strong point of they were able to talk about how they felt. Like, they were able to talk about their problems. Like, they wouldn't always talk about it firsthand. Like, like, as soon as they felt it, they'd let it fester like a lot of people like to do. But they would talk about it sooner rather than later in most cases, except, you know, the part with Steve. Again, Steve's always causing problems. And the part with Steve and dating with the girls, of course, that's gonna make things awkward. But, I'm running over my time here, so I'll stop talking so much. For question number 3. The whole degrees of the changes in their relationship, like Jennifer going to France, that obviously is very, like, big change in the relationship, that she's been there the whole time, even though they necessarily haven't gotten along the whole time. Her just going off, and then their limited communication while she's gone, like with just, you know, she didn't write as soon as she wanted to, and then when she came back, they were unsure of where their friendship was. Like, they said it was awkward, that they, you know, had trouble talking, and that neither of them knew where their friendship stood. Even though their letters were all friendly, but things are a lot different in person than they are on paper. Question number 4, you know, like I said, the whole thing with Steve. Avoidance. That's when avoidance comes in. Like what I talked about with communication, they avoided talking, like, not they, Jennifer avoided telling Ashley initially about what she saw when she saw Steve kissing the other girl in the cafeteria. She didn't talk to her at first, even though she knew she had to, because she's her best friend and that's what you're supposed to do, but she just didn't tell her at first. She avoided the problem, which is exactly what you should not do. You just need to get it out. Just say it. Just, because you know you're gonna do it, so just stop procrastinating. And it made Ashley all upset and all flustered and all that. The last question talked about like wanting independence in a relationship. It's like, yeah, you like spending time with them, but not like glue and wood, nothing like that. But Jennifer definitely did. Jennifer definitely did want some space, obviously, because, you know, she went to study abroad in France, and she wasn't even initially the one who wanted space. Ashley was. But everybody wants space at some point. Like, you can't spend all of your time with one person. You have to be able to, like, spread out. You can't just... not just one person. But anyway, I hope I answered those right, and that I understood them. I really went over my time limit by about 4 minutes, so I'm sorry about that, but, thank you.